Yo, what up, what up, what up? Welcome back, man. Listen, so I used to like PSA Cinch, right? You know, when he made his like shorter videos. Um, Adam friended. I'm pretty sure he got added in later. Distributist is not somebody I've watched a lot of his content with. I've seen him a couple of times work with Charlemagne, right? Which, you know, I mean, like I'm a Moldbug guy, I'm a Yarvin guy, you know what I mean? So, like, and I'm kind of in that realm. And I'd like to pick, you know what I mean, his brain, the distributist, right? Because, like, I don't know a lot about Catholic distributism, and there's not a lot of work I have, or not a lot of stuff written on it. There's only like one or two, like, really, you know what I mean, like heavy guys who to read about this type of stuff. And I'm probably going to get down and dirty. I think it's Chesterfield I need to read. But, like, I'm working on stuff at the moment, to be honest with you. Right now, I'm reading Jefferson and Adam's Friends Divided, and I'm also reading the Tocqueville's Democracy in America, right? So, like, you know, I got other things I'm working on, and like, yo, listen, watching 6 hours worth of a live stream with these guys is really difficult for me. And I mean, I understand, like, yo, look, you know, I used to do that when I was, you know, I mean, a little younger and stuff. You know, I mean, my channel was smaller. I can't do it anymore. Like, it just, I have better things to do with my time than spend an entire day live streaming. You know what I mean? I just got other people who have demands on my time, my kids, females, you know what I mean, myself, right? You know, work, just other stuff. Like, doing a 6 hour live stream is just something that's too much. Even doing an hour live stream every week is difficult for me. Especially now, like, you know, I don't even have like a computer anymore. I gave it to my kid, right? So, like, I got to get another computer as a whole. You know, he just moved in with me, and I'm trying to keep him, you know, I mean, out of trouble and like get his life together, that type of thing. You know, just trying to help build him a little bit. You know what I mean? Because coming of age in this world is kind of fucked up. But the reason why I'm making this video is because I'll be honest with you, liberals have a really, really hard time addressing the shit that they do, and I kind of wanted to address it. Right, and I want to put the blame directly on liberalism and the Enlightenment as a whole. I think it's fucking important that we do so, because we really don't stand here and have a real understanding of what things were, which is why, like, I read these older books, right? Like, one of my favorite books of all time is The Art of War from Niccolo Machiavelli from like 1519, right? And I know, like, in Art of War from Sun Tzu, Machiavelli made one, so go read it. It's fucking goddamn awesome. It's a conversational book. And it'll help understand the ideas of the aristocrats, right? And the ideas of what class really means. You know, if you pay attention to these sides of it. And then if you go and you read, like, the Tocqueville, which I'm reading right now, it really gives you a solid understanding of the ways people thought about life and their attitude towards government and other people, right? Like, for instance, Americans have always gotten really mad when they seen somebody who, you know what I mean, they felt as though, not like the person themselves, like who they're looking at, but if the person themselves feels as though, you know what I mean, like they're below them, they'll try to drag them down. And this has been a thing about liberalism for a long time that's happened, right? And it's this egalitarian ideology that, you know, every man is king of his castle without any real doctrine behind it. Right, and so therefore, like, every woman, you know what I mean, is a queen, right? And just like this shit goes back, like, it goes back to like the fucking 1600s as a whole, right? Like, not understanding your position in your society and life, because we don't really want to have that ideology, because it's an overcorrection from like medieval, like fucking serfdom, right? So, like, everybody's like, I don't want to ever be a serf again and be stuck as a serf, right? And it's this ideology, right, that, you know, really, you know what I mean, is shown through in liberalism that Marx came out of in people of this nature. So, like, we're gonna address this as they get in, as they talk about it. Like, and again, like, this is a 2 hour long clip. Like, legit. I don't understand how Adam, like, how do these guys, like, fucking not, like, stitching them, how are they not making shorter clips? Like, cut a clip down to, like, 20 minutes or 15. Like, yo, you can get, like, fucking 30 of them bitches out of one live stream. Like, man, you have tons of content and get way more fucking pay rate and, you know, more ad rolls. Like, what are you doing, bro? Anyway, listen, let's keep it going. Let's rock, though.
That entity, he's still doing this thing. I haven't really thought about it for about a year.
Philosophy Tube's still going strong. She just got paid by the UK government to release a pro-vaccine video, so, you know.
Wasn't there this whole thing about the CIA and like them?
Yeah, so we were talking about that. Caleb Moffat and Max Blumenthal very ridiculously are trying to claim that bread tube because here's the problem, and I assume you're aware of this. You have like the Jimmy Dore types and the Max Blumenthal types who are these class reduction Marxists who they want to label the woke cultural Marxists as like liberals and fascists because that's like their main attack is to call people liberals and fascists.
All right. Well, see, let's address this because this is kind of important. As much as, like, you know, you heard me, you know, a little bit ago stand here and address how, like, we tear down anybody we feel as though above us, right? Understanding and looking at the power dynamics of the world is important. You know, I mean, it's like, for instance, like, you know who the king is, you know the president is, or whatever, right? You know who your senator is, your congressman, like the person who is like your supervisor, your manager, right? All these type of things, right? You have to know who these people are, right? It's a basic part of life, right? As an in general thing, like you start having a fucking really simple understanding of like your position versus theirs. So when you start addressing things like the management class, right, which is a hard thing for some people to address because like they don't want to read the fucking history, right? But it's a really easy history to understand, all right? So, and it's really easy to understand like why things are happening the way they're happening. And so like, okay, check this out. And this is where like guys like Yarvin come in real fucking handy. So you get the cathedral model, right? Look at the cathedral model, right? The cathedral model says, you know, universities produce the people who run businesses and governments, right? Because like, you know, fucking a lot of what you would call the humanities are government degrees, right? They're degrees in governance. And then a lot of what you would call, you know, I mean, the STEM degrees or the management or the business degree side of things, those are what you would call business degrees or like management degrees in like corporations. So your CEO, your CFO, your, you know, I mean, your upper level management, vice presidents, all these people, right? They get all those fucking degrees, right? Now, okay. The thing is, though, is they're all coming out of universities. And they're all being taught at the same place that you're teaching your teachers. Important to understand, okay? So what ends up happening is as you're producing for your businesses, you're also producing for like the future economic people of your society. Back in the day when we needed industrial workers to run the machines in factories and stuff like that, you know, Rockefeller, Carnegie, these people, they helped fund and create a lot of what we would call the public education system. They also funded almost every library and all the pools, right? Like, you know, I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like, I was a poor, you know, I mean, like immigrant kid whose parents, you know, my grandparents were mob, right? They were mafia people. So, like, they all got broke down in the 70s and 80s. And by the time I come along, well, like my grandfather got arrested at my mom's wedding for stealing a truckload of meat for the reception. Like, you know, my family was kind of in shambles by the time I came along. So we were very poor, very, very impoverished. My mom married a man who, his father, my dad's father, like he ran a construction business. He had a farm, 14 kids, right? There wasn't a lot of wealth being passed forward. He was a working man. He worked for a living. You know, I mean, that's not a bad thing in the end of the day, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But like the problem is that these type of people are not the type of people who run things. They don't make the fucking rules. And they're also not part of the system that creates the managers of the society. So you have to understand that the managers are a class of people, okay? Oh yeah, back to where we were. Okay, so Rockefeller, Carnegie, all these people, right? So they created the industrial worker. They created the schools. They created industrial workers and managers and scientists as well. Like, I don't know if you could imagine, it being 1870, 1880, something like that, 1890, when petroleum first started becoming a big thing, Standard Oil, right? And, you're Rockefeller and you need petroleum engineers. But the problem is like, let's be honest, petroleum as a product is fucking new. Like, literally, 1840s, 1850s, you still have people out here, whaling, right? Where, like, they're pulling in whales for oil, for their blubber, pulling for their blubber for oil, right? So now you need petroleum engineers. How are you going to get petroleum engineers? Well, you're going to have to, teach them how to be petroleum engineers. Get the word out that people need to be petroleum engineers. So you have to create all this stuff, right? Whole cloth. So, this is where, a lot of your universities come from, all this type of stuff. They also need managers to be able to do the logistics, the paperwork, trucking, shipping, not just rail work, all this shipping stuff all over the place, managing, pipelines and delivery systems and all these things, right? These are not like workers who are in a factory, turning a wrench and, doing these type of things, right? These are different type of workers. These are workers who use their brains. These are people who start becoming what's known as the management class. Now, in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, that 5-10% of people are going to college. By the 70s and 80s, it's like 20% are going to college. By the time the millennials come in, it's 50% are going to college. These are a class of people, right? They're a different breed of human being. They're not workers. They don't work. Okay, they're not going to be on a dock. They're not going to be out here turning a wrench. They're not going to be flipping a burger, right? They're a different class of people. They're people who are universalist and cosmopolitan. And the reason why they're going to be this is because, when the university first got created, it was created for, when you talk about your liberal arts degrees, right? These are degrees that were made to make, rich people's kids human beings. So when you have an aristocrat's kid, right, who's he's going to be governor, or he's going to be president, or he's going to be, a lord, or whatever the case is, you want him to, have a degree of being able to know shit, history, science, war, art fair, or warfare, art, right, basic stuff about, human beings. A lot of times I have religious studies in it. And the reason why you wanted him to know these things is so that when he was, coming up, he would end up having a basic common respect and understanding of what he was working for. Kind of important, right? Now, this is your liberal arts degree back in, the 1800s, 1600s, right? 1700s, when, you first have Yale and Oxford, right? These old universities. Like, for instance, Thomas Jefferson went to Princeton. Remember, Thomas Jefferson was 29 when he wrote the Declaration of Independence, something like that. He's a kid compared to a lot of us, right? In the end of the day. So, but he also had this fundamental understanding of the rights of man, right? Now, these men at this time, the reasons why they're aristocrats is because they were landed, right? They were landed gentry. There were people who were tied to the land. They made their money from the land being toiled, right? And they had slaves and things of this nature. And that's why we don't really think of the founding fathers as being liberals, because they were 100% nationalists. Not just nationalists, they were also ethno-nationalists. They were, not statist in the word of the state, but states as in Virginia, or Pennsylvania or New York, right? Because they lived there. That's where they made their money. That's where their power came from. But when you get to things like Voltaire and things like Thomas Paine, Adam Smith, right? When you get to these guys, and these guys are not far from Marx in time periods, right? You want to be honest with you, okay? Because Thomas Paine's Rights of Man, comes in from shit. I'm trying to think here. Man, listen, with Rights of Man, I think it was 1790 something, right? And then you're talking about Voltaire was 1810, 1820. Marx was 1850, Right? These are all like, and Marx was a response to liberalism from like the left about the industrialized society. And you have to remember when industrialization first happened in places like Britain, people were eating so terribly and were so underfed and were so abused that literally the people in Britain lost inches off of their height. This happened. It's a real thing, right? In the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. So this is, it wasn't a straight line up for like humanity and gaining like, the ability to have more things. And this ideology of thinking that, like Marx is responsible for any of the stuff that's happening today is nonsense. Like this all begins with liberalism. Like all of it. This is all liberal. And when you're talking about like, the people who are, like the gender people and these people are like, man, listen, you can cut your penis off and all this stuff. Bro, listen, this is being produced by schools. They're not Marxists. They're producing stuff for the economy that's good for the economy. Important. Like, let's put this like this. If you needed a programmer, right, that like was going to be docile inside of an office, it's important to understand that this person who you're looking for is basically, a female, right? They want female autistic people, right? Because females are willing to sit at the desk at a cubicle for hours and hours and hours a day, right? And just sit there and fucking, stay on task. They don't want a dude, who's going to be, like causing problems in the office with his high testosterone, right? They don't want a female who's, going to be out here fucking everybody at the office. They want a chick, who's going to have, like a short pixie cut, or a dude who's pretending to be a chick, right? And they just want, like, it's why like all these trannies, they say they wear programming socks, right? It's like literally a meme on the internet because it's a real fucking thing. Like every time, like I hang on Discord all the time and I talk to, trannies and shit. They come into Discord calls and every last one of them are like a fucking computer programmer. Every fucking one of them. Right. And so this is what ends up happening. Right. Is that they want these people in the economy. And not only that, they're not going to have kids. And they're not going to have kids. They're going to be spending their money on cheap plastic added high value goods. Right. They're just, they're just going to be sitting here like spending all their money at fucking Starbucks and on nonsense like video games and like garbage that they don't fucking need. And they're really good at making fucking payments because they're autistic. This is good for the economy. And I'm not going to stand here and say that like it is a unnatural planned thing. Because like, again, this isn't Marxian. Let me put this like this. When Rodney King got beaten, right, in LA, right, and like all of a sudden black people started burning the city down, right, and they burnt down their own places. The academics, right, and the newspaper people, right, the people who are writing articles and newscasters, right, one of them chimed in and said, oh man, listen, this is, just black rage at discrimination, right? And it gave like the excuse to do something that the people were already doing. And this tends to be like how stuff works. It's things happen, and then academia and then like some academic or article person writes something, and then everybody takes it and runs with it and gives that excuse. Like they excuse away shit. It's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission. It's kind of where it's at. So like the tranny thing was something that was already happening. Because like I can remember back in the 90s, there was massive amounts of like drag queens and homosexuals, and all of them were like computer people, right? This was a normal thing back in the day, and it's a normal thing today. This is something that's been going on forever, right? And this is great for the economy. And this is what people don't understand. They think that all this shit is like bad for like, society, and it is, but it's great for the economy. The economy's never cared about the society. Right. It's like when we stood here and we shipped all the jobs over to China and Mexico and all that type of stuff, and the manufacturing base left. Right. Like, that was great for the economy. Like, allowed boomers to be able to retire, massive amounts of like inputs for, tons of like free capital to be able to throw into like stocks and research and development for, products that were like going to be able to be built elsewhere. And then we're going to sell them to people at like really cheap rates because, all these companies can now operate in a 1% margin because credit's super cheap. Right. All this stuff.
right, is great for the economy, but it's terrible for society. Because the economy doesn't care about society. And this is the problem, is that liberals don't understand that, yes, it is y'all's fault. This all comes out of y'all. Right. And the original part of this, and this is where like Voltaire and stuff comes in, right, is that Voltaire and these original liberals that came out of like the French Revolution and, you know what I mean, like the Frankfurt area, but like literally it wasn't, you know what I mean, it wasn't Marx. This was like pre-Marx. These people were all liberals. They were all like literally the original liberals and like the original people who came out of like the American Enlightenment. They sat here and had this attitude of like, I can travel wherever I want. I'm no longer a person of any nation. I'm not part of a community. I'm not part of a family. I'm not tied to a king. That was the big thing too, as well as the aristocrats trying to free themselves from the burden of being part of a nationality, part of a community, part of a kingdom, being a citizen of anything. They were a citizen of the world and they could travel wherever they wanted to. That's why liberalism is a religion of the merchant class. And this is not class reduction theory from Marx. It's just not. This is just reality, right? And these are things of like the Unitarian ideology of like religion, where you had the Unitarian people were literally the people who set up our fucking government, right? This is John Locke, right? The Unitarians like who were kicked out of northern Italy and ended up running to Poland, which is crazy, right? And then ended up in England at John Locke's house, right? This is just like a reality of things, right? This is just what it is. I just seen that shit move too, man. I feel where you are, right? They went to John Locke's house, and then they went from John Locke's house to the Americas, right? And when they got to the Americas, you know what I mean, like the founding fathers, you know what I mean, were massively reading John Locke and these people. This is, you know what I mean, again, this is where liberalism's roots come from. And these are Unitarians, you know what I mean, who, you know what I mean, don't want to be part of the church, don't want to be part of a kingdom. They don't want to have a government. You know what I mean? They want to set up this liberal democracies. These are the things that people don't really understand about what we're looking at and what we're doing. You know what I mean? And these are issues that we don't have conversations about. And these cultural, you know what I mean, like leftists, right, as y'all would call them, in reality are really just economic, you know what I mean, liberals. Because like they're trying to tie in the social liberalism in the economy. Like they're taking like the free will of the people and turning it into being, hey, look, you know what's great for the economy? Having a tranny that's not going to have kids and is able to spend all of their fucking free capital and credit on fucking high value added merchandise. GDP number go up, son. Reality. But yo, look, man, I'm Tom Pease of P News. I hope y'all enjoy this, distribute this. If you see this, I'm on Discord. Holler at me. Links in my description. I'm going to holler at you later. Peace.